Thank you very much, Yannis, for joining us on this news hour. What are your thoughts on this security bill and the latest wave of protests in France?
Thank you for the invitation. This law is very controversial in France, and right now within the civil society you have many protests and critiques coming from journalists, from some politicians, as well as from NGOs. And at a worldwide level, this law is also very criticized as an illiberal law, as it was said by the Financial Times. And as you have seen, a big demonstration happened in Paris last week, and other demonstrations will happen, because it's clearly a decrease of freedom and of our liberties in France. And there is something which is very dangerous. You know, some medias outside talked about an authoritarian drift in France. And in fact, police brutality is not new. It's something very old, and especially for the ethnic minorities, mainly black people and French of North African backgrounds. They are used to this kind of police brutality, the people living in the suburbs. But more and more, the average French citizen is also subjected to this kind of violence when he is protesting about some laws or about some policies. And we have seen this with the yellow vests, where some demonstrators were beaten by police. So now it's a very large, very wide protest which is going on in France, and the government is in a difficult position, but they are always adding new controversies to some controversies which were already going on.
Right, and this comes after President Emmanuel Macron passed derogatory remarks against the religion of Islam, which hurt the sentiments of billions of Muslims across the world. Back when he passed those derogatory remarks, he spoke about freedom of speech, freedom of expression. In fact, he also said that his government is going to ensure that freedom of speech is preserved in France. But this new security bill is exactly against what President Macron said about a month ago. So what do you think is happening with his policies these days?
Yes, it's a total contradiction. And yes, as you said, this law on global security, as they are saying, came in a context that after big controversies related to Islam and to the discriminations against Muslims in France, when some Muslims have been targeted, and especially those who are civil rights activists. And we know, and Amnesty International published a paper saying that no, France is not supporting freedom of speech as they are claiming in the world. And many international newspapers like New York Times and the Guardian in UK pointed out that there is a big contradiction between the government or the country which is claiming to be the country of human rights, freedom of speech, and at the same time becoming more and more illiberal. So it's a contradiction, and Islamophobia is one of the big problem in this issue, but it became also a global issue which is dealing with all French people, irrespective of their religion. And as I said before, now the average French citizen could be targeted by these laws against the liberty of all French citizens. And something happened which is very dangerous. Maybe you have seen it. Michel Zickler, who is a producer, who is a black man, have been violently beaten by cops and subjected to racism. And some medias are talking about a French George Floyd case. And in fact, if the camera and the video didn't record what happened to him, this case would have probably been hidden and dismissed. So it's thanks to the recordings of the camera that the civil society have been shocked and pushed the government in a position that obliged it to condemn what happened. And this new law, in its Article 24, wants to ban the right of the citizen to film, to take images and videos of police actions. So this checking from the citizens is a fundamental right. And this law is very dangerous. And it's a contradiction because the French government is said that they were shocked by the image of Michel Zicker being beaten by police, and at the same time wanting to ban the right to take this kind of image.
Now, in light of the recent developments, where do you see the future of freedom of speech and freedom of expression in France? Would it be surprising to see more draconian measures being adopted by the government of President Emmanuel Macron?
I think in this context, and also the government is thinking election and trying to catch or to fish some votes from the far right, and using the security approach is always a tool of many politicians to win some elections and to nurture a kind of populism and demagogy. So I think that maybe they will try to continue to carry on this policy, but it depends also on the reaction of the civil society. And we saw that when some Muslim civil rights activists have been targeted, or many Muslims have been subjected to discriminations or attacked unfairly, the civil society was, I can't say that the civil society was silent, but a big part of the civil society was silent. And now we see that when you try to reduce the freedom of a minority like Muslims, at the end of the day, it will impact the whole society. And I think it's the time for the French citizen to be aware of this and to do their duty to protest against this very dangerous policy.